Determination of variables after crystallization of problem. Researcher has to determine the relevant variables or relevant facts among all constituting variables or facts. He has to analyze that what facts among other facts are somewhere concerned for their problem or may be responsible for their problem, and he has to filter those facts and to focus his studies further only on those variables which he has selected for the investigation. To ascertain that what may be the important facts responsible for occurrence of any problem. Among all other variables selected, filtered for the study, he has to focus on some major facts which can be held responsible with their major contribution for occurrence, subsistence and continuance of such problem. There is a principle that any problematic phenomena, transaction or incidents perceived problematic may occur due to the composition of facts in a certain manner, but such problem cannot subsist long unless nurtured by other factors. Any such problem which exists in your life is no doubt the composition of facts which causes any incidents or phenomena problematic, but it cannot maintain further unless it has any other supporting factors to maintain its existence. Such supporting factors are those factors which can be held responsible for the nurturing of problem. These factors may be the internal or external one. Internal factors are those factors which are hidden in problem itself, and they can be searched by crystallization of problematic phenomena, whereas external factors are those factors which do not constitute the part of constituents of research problem. Problem depending on other factors which are not the part of constituents of the problem, which is the external member, and from outside it manipulates the facts which results in problem. These factors are called independent variables and problem is called dependent variables. Independent variables means those variables which, though responsible for occurrence of problem and their manipulation affect the problem, but here effect in any problem shall not affect those variables in turn. That is why these variables are called independent, and our problem depends on the existence and variation of such facts. That is why this problem is called dependent variable. After the analysis of problem, the final stage of formulation of problem, that is the statement of problem. When the problem actually comes into shape of a statement, whatever be the understanding and perception made by the researcher after crystallization and keen analysis of problem, thereafter he makes the statement regarding existence of problem. This statement may be in verbal form or in written form. A statement must convey the real nature of problem as it is, as realized and felt by the researcher. While formulating research problem, researcher has to be very careful as to the use of language and grammar. Language should be clear, easy and unambiguous. This is that stage when the problem is conveyed by the researcher and submitted for the further research process. If the researcher is weak in understanding language, grammar and communicating the problem, in that case it may be the negativity on the part of researcher. After making the statement as to the existence of any research and analyzing the variables responsible for the problem can be classified on the basis of its variables, independent and dependent variables. Such relation is studied by the research designing according to the nature of research formulated by the researcher. Kind of research problem can be classified as univariable problem, bivariable problem, multivariables problem, or opponent variables problem. Univariable problem is the problem where formulated after following certain hypotheses, and hypothesis denoting that any single independent variable is responsible for the problem. And whole study is focused to study about that individual factor stated in the hypothesis as single variable or univariable. After completion of research, the hypothesis is tested. If that variable is really responsible for the problem, means your hypothesis has been proved. And if the variable stated held responsible for the problem is not found true, means hypothesis disproved, and researcher should move for further investigation. Second, bivariable problem, where hypothesis suggests inferences on two different independent variables responsible for occurrence of the problem, is called bivariable problem. Researcher has to focus attention at the same time on two independent variables. He has to investigate, and thereafter he has to determine this thing whether both the variables are responsible for the problem or any one of them. If both the variables are found responsible, then he has to look the major contribution of any variable. The variable who is found who has contributed as major variable, who is found as major variable for the problem, is called the major variable, and other variable who is studied together with the major variable is called the minor variable. And if after investigation it is decided that the one of the variable is responsible and other is not, in that case one hypothesis is disproved and other is proved. After this bivariable problem, another nature of problem is multivariable problem, where number of variables are held responsible for existence of any problem in the hypothesis. Hypothesis suggesting that number of variables, more than two variables, are responsible for existence of problem. This research process is very difficult because at the same time researcher has to focus on all suspected variables, and he has to be independent, unbiased and objective towards his keen investigation in the light of relation of problem with the variables. Gradually with the study, he moved from multivariables to individual variables and come to conclusion whether all variables stated in hypothesis are causing problem or some of them or none of them. On the basis of classification of variables, the last classification is opponent variable problem, where there is a question between two or more inconsistent variables, whether A is the cause of problem or B is the cause of problem. Where A and B cannot stand together, in such cases two hypotheses are formulated. First alleges the role of A variable and second on B. On proving one hypothesis, other is rejected. Living example of this opponent variable problem is the determination of paternity, where two or more persons are suspected for ascertaining the paternity of any child. Natural science provides that all the suspects cannot be held responsible for this nature of problem. In that case, only those variables which are suspected are studied under this process, and thereafter the researcher comes with the final conclusion as to the role of any one of the variable, and other is exonerated from his investigation. After analyzing as to the nature of research problem, formulation of research problem, all other important aspects relating to realization of problem, formulation of problem, and classification of problem, here on final conclusion it can be summarized as the formulation of research problem is a mental and psychological process which can be completed with the proper involvement of the researcher with the problem. First is the realization. After realization of the problem, researcher comes with the identification of problem. For the identification, he has to verify the facts with the corroborative opinion of other persons, review of literature. All existing literature as maximum as possible should be researched properly for determination of research problem. And review of literature is further beneficial to the researcher for his further study with that research problem. Statement of problem, that is the final shape of research problem, should be properly, systematically, grammatically correct, and the statement of problem should convey the same feeling and experience as researcher conceives in his mind as to the nature and existence of problem. Thank you.